absorbed in the concentration of the categories called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Arya Avalokita looked upon the very practice of profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those 5 gates also as him. Then Arya Avalokita. How should I understand the lineage which activity of profound perfection of wisdom? So that the Bodhisattva Arya Avalokita this Shariputra innocent the lineage of daughter of the lineage which is practiced activity of profound perfection of wisdom. She looked upon the face corrector and repeating the face also as form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not form, form is also in the same way, freedom, discrimination. Shariputra likewise all phenomena emptiness without characteristics. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no composition factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no touch, no phenomenon. There is no eye element in soul after including no mind element, no visual consciousness. There is no ignorance, no extension of ignorance in soul after including no aging and death and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no self-origination. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no knowledge. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, but a sacrifice relying on dwelling in perfection, and without obscuration, without fear, all the Buddhas of the world, 3 times also manifestly completely awakened to as a possible perfect complete enlightenment. Lies in perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of the mantra equals and unequal, the mantra of authority pacifies all suffering should be known as truth which is not false. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayasta Om Gate Gate Parasangha Parasangate Bodhisattva. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, sufficient perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan rose without concentration and culminated Bodhisattva, Arya Avalokita powers. Was said, was this, and it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated, even in the titles rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the venerable Shariputra, Bodhisattva, Arya Avalokita power, and those surrounding in their entirety of the world, gods, humans, assuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed at the final praise that spoken by the Bhagavan. No. I prostrate in the gathering of the deities and spiritual giants who abide in the holy yoga of using space. By your powers of clairvoyance and magical emanation, the power of practitioners like a mother of a child. Tayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhisattva. By the teachings of the three super angels possessing the power of truth, may inner and outer entities of enchantment, may they be dispelled, may they be pacified, Shinto Kori as Soha. May all negative forces opposed to Dharma be completely pacified, may the host of 80,000 obstacles be pacified, and may we be separated from problems and harmful conditions to Dharma. May all enjoyments be at all with Dharma, and may it be auspicious and perfect happiness here and right now. Saji Prakishya Metodam, Rajashini Yagambandi, Sakishini Meterawadi, Prakunanda Shilachurapash, Guru Ranamanda Kanayatayami. Sangye Chalam Tsoji Chamala, Chancho Badu Dami, Kazuchi, Dami, Shishini, Roland Beche Sangi Rupa Sho Sangi Chona Tsogi Chonanga Chancho Badu Dani Kapsuchi Dani Chushi Gibe Tsama Roland Beche Sangi Rupa Sho Sangi Chona Tsogi Chonanga Chancho Badu Dani Kapsuchi Songi Roland Beche Sangi Rupa Sho Kangi tuzi ni zone tawa tamche tambi chere tambi chun tenze kodam kela chanze lo. Good morning, everyone. Garden catch dance on. Catch dance. Catch dance. Shanti Deva Kunda Jindachik Chonsonsa Nanzan Zindanyan Dingi and Chiglavs Dingi Minti Shimasala. Timayo Chigat Namazo Kumi Kas Chilogian Battles Bands. The Tomo can use Chinda.
Graham.
Graham.
Yeah, this one.
Kunga cousin him question quite not the Kun Kasa.
The Pagi Dirve.
What did he?
Yeah.
Graham's last song.
Yeah, Graham.
Teaching to the which cousin him Kungalara. Dautapi.
Graham.
And teaching Shanti Devati Kore. Chichida, Nazin Yerlas, mean she was.
So, good morning, everyone. Geshe was called today down to the Nalanda Master's Garden, and it was told that someone is wanting to sponsor a Shantideva statue as part of the 17 Panditas of Nalanda Monastery. And Geshe said that it was not very clear about who the person is. He was told that is part of the close participants. So we know that Graham, hi Graham, I know that you're there. I think that you had a discussion before with Geshe about sponsoring a Chandukirti statue. So Geshe is wondering if the Shantideva statue, did you raise the point of Shantideva statue, or was it someone else? Anyone knows?
Yeah, I'm going to do it. Yeah.
So you're also the Shantideva go-to person, right?
Yeah, I talked to Colin. I talked to Gary yesterday, and then he put me in touch with Colin, and Colin rang me last night, and we're organising it. Yeah.
All right.
Great.
So just to be clear, are you doing two, or are you doing instead of Chandakirti, you're doing Shantideva? Are you doing both Shantideva and Chandakirti, or just one? No pressure. We just wanted to be clear.
Well, I'm not sure. I thought they already had someone to do the other one, but I might. I'll see what I can do anyway. I'll see what Colin, what he discussed. He was saying he only needed the Shantideva one at this stage, but I'm prepared to help also with the transporting of it when it's ready.
All right.
Towards the end of
Someone
the
said that you're going to do the whole 17.
I wish I had.
I'm just joking.
But I would do that.
No pressure. Just joking. 제가 그런 the chick the 진짜 chickens 근데 셴바들이랑 로파 최고고요. 나한테 따고서 네 가상 콜링양도 계시지. Kunda dende jindache ani andi osiara tun tanlashwa dilaya andi jindachi insa.
Cousin Hima, Nandi Garden Society Chilaya, and Yanga Sogo, Kiss Tamut Keranga love songs. The thing I in Jimmy Kerangi, daughter of Kuchiko does.
Oh,
and not the need of cousins. And the console, daughter of Kucharang, that she loves saying this.
Yeah, Geshe Geshe was called today down to go down to the Garden of Enlightenment, and to the Nalanda Master's Garden, and he had a conversation with someone. You know, I was not there, so I'm not sure who Geshe was talking to. But anyway, he remembers that after the inauguration of the Nalanda Master's Garden, you two had a conversation, and you said that we have to have a statue of Chandakirti. So Geshe kind of was a little bit confused. He didn't know if it's kind of, if now you're doing the Shantideva statue or sponsoring the Shantideva statue or Chandakirti. That's the reason that Geshe brought it up.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't be a problem. We'll get them both done, no problem at all. And there may be a stupa in as well. We'll see how we go.
No pressure, no pressure. Yeah.
So the statue of Lama Yeshe, I think we're doing too. Is that? I think that's happening.
Dila ande Ponzo yang Kolingi ande Lama Yeshe ki kunda den dojis shanti yoro. Shasha de peshe Quran de sama Colin de sama dono Colin ya doke she yasan. Colin se peshe big ya tangi do.
Yeah. The dishes this the another the tatani the tunyon jignalo ya sargoyaji chago mares.
No.
And chona tanak nganzu tanak ngadi ngere and kajiki and tandlenchini nganzu ya shangi islanza nganzu tele capture chigoris ra tichidita and mintuni and nganzu chedang tendu chudunanda gosaj lawas the gunani the sum chongzarista sum jinda chongzaris the truth inenganzu da dawta ku ngasaris di jilakanga tirsangundusra
Okay. Anyway, there's no rush to finish everything quickly or in one go. We can take it as an ongoing project, right? So it's not like it has to be completed all together in one time. So Geshe reckons that there are 3 statues that are already in the pipe. I think that they're Atisha, statue Atisha. Then I think that we've already placed an order of the Chandakirti statue.
Buddha Palta.
Buddha Palita di Natsarbe. Oh yeah, so someone is sponsoring Buddha Palita statue. So it's going to be, I guess, statue galore. Yeah, so there are already a few statues in the pipe, and we can take it easy. Oh, not take it easy, sorry. We can continue to work on that. It doesn't have to be completed in one go.
담비춘 쭈비 퇴직체도 내면자 대대진 심진기 상반이 조금 교수야디 엔 자와 같이 로사레스 데 이내양은 비 개침부로지 가성고스 온디 배나 답점된디기 진주 내면 충분히 저 가르치는야 타니스 망원치 돌아야 로고야지 송구요레스 타니스 망원슬라운디 하장 예저 마인바 야 하장 비기 아니 탈로 혼자 마인바 배나 직 룰레야 까트 쇼지 배나 배나 치료 미티고라 소베 아니 직 룰레야 아니 메테야나 소바다 직 아니 가서다 직 데미 스나면도 라바 주굿도비야나 소바 어딘지 조라스 안 딘지에 마인바 아니 타니스 마노 돈 로고에치 어디송고리스라.
Anyway, let's go back to the text and pick up from the point that we left off yesterday. So we're looking at how to practice ethical discipline that is working for the sake of sentient beings in point C. So we've covered a few points in that section. We have looked at devoting oneself to the welfare of others, and yesterday we started conduct that gathers others without sullying or polluting oneself with wrongdoings. Now we've started with point A, which is gathering through material generosity. We've already covered verse 85. Today we're going to pick up from verse 86. We've already read through the verse yesterday, but still we haven't really looked at an explanation of that. It is a really important verse coming out of the heading of not causing harm to the body for the sake of minor actions. So let's read through this verse. Do not harm for insignificant actions this body that practices the supreme Dharma. If one acts in this way, the wishes of sentient beings will be accomplished swiftly. So if we are followers of the Buddha, the Bhagavan, we need to make sure that we do not fall into the two extremes. Do not do things in a way that is too exaggerated, and do not do things in a way that is too austere, or too, in a sense that involve with austerities, like, for example, subjecting your body to different forms of harm, burning your body. There are those who do things like offering parts of the body, offering a finger, cutting the finger, and so forth. So if we are followers of the Buddha, the Bhagavan, then one should not get involved with practices that are extreme like that. Avoid the two extremes.
The Hajan Gita Mambadi, Penanazutaji, Seguinema Sobore, Denere, Kanji, and in Koi Yoshi, Gogo Yodin, the Hajan Gita Vaina, and D and Shaman to Kundra Sobata, and Mi Shambajiki, Deva Inaya, and Tawan Jamba Soraji, Chatu Marwas, Dinza, Dindia Maimbachi, Gogo is rough.
So we need to avoid those two extremes. We need to avoid the extreme of doing things in a way that is too extensive, or too elaborate. In the sense that when we look at the sense of elaboration that might occur, we do need food and clothing and so forth for as necessities. But if you have too much of them, in a sense that if those objects of desire are too elaborate, you come under the control of those things rather than controlling food and so forth. They start to control you. But also when your involvement with food, clothing, social interactions and so forth is too involved, too extreme, it is hard for others to develop faith in you.
If that Shivyabalis, Lun Dadan Tomigi, Edanayan Tesoncha, Chumdi Yurin Soani, Telesunum Chimbucher, Jesomataros.
So we have read through the first couple of paragraphs from the commentary to verse 86. Let's pick up from Arideva's 400 stanzas that says, although one, of course, views the body as enemy, one still protects it. If one lives for a long time with discipline, great merit will arise from it.
Tilda, P. Kebe, the Penanganzotogigi, and Lude Dana Shinji, Tontongudas, Lude Sachimushuja, P. Devin Joneta Vigilia, Tatia Mato, and Ludata Vigi, Nanzu Tontongudas, the Kebe P. Monigi, Nyamin Chinsugi, Nimutu Somia, Katechini, and Yamin Chingin Sugu, and Ludi, Dungaji, Led Nimu Chungi, Dungaji Ludi, and Jatawichi, Sigioris.
So Aryadeva mentions in his verse the seeing of the body as an enemy. It says, although one of course views the body as enemy, it's hard for us to see the body as an enemy. We can't see that. For us, we hold the body to be very precious to us, very dear to us. For us, we view the body as a source for pleasure. Our involvement with the body is based on afflictive states of mind. But if you're an expert practitioner, if you're a learned practitioner, you tear yourself away from the poisonous afflictions. You see the body as something that arises through the involvement with anger, attachment, and ignorance, and as such, you see the body as an enemy.
가르스는 드라스니디 never 킹이지로스 둥하ting이지 디엔상한주 류디 드라다고 컨트 샤고르스라온디 nganzu 가서 따지 난기 켄스나문도 비 나살아 소바 아니 나선자 민저기 nganzu에 나니 둥하테야기 켄자 주디 아니 류디 토니 용구여버디 시우차고라스 아니 치기에 비 따지 네비기 둥하대야 페나 치기 천자가 소바 아니 도데 유발의 소비 슈니 아니 nganzu 류레 테니 둥하 용역이 겐 심마디 아니 류디 토니 용구여라스 둥하 굴리 딘디지 메나 아니 천자의 가르 배주 제는야 nganzu에 둥하테 토야지 요마라스 인자 아니 친망기 자만지비 둥하 참을로디 아니 류디 땡치기 여바디 야시야다 말레스 인자 아니 자타버치 시거버치 라 너버킹인지 통기여버치 자기여레스.
So when we think of how to view this body as an enemy, well, it gives us suffering. It gives us harm. So what makes this body as an enemy of us? Well, when we look at inner conditions for the experience of suffering, inner conditions like, for example, becoming sick, experiencing pain from sickness and so forth, it is because we have the body. Through having a body such as this, that we get sick and experience suffering. Also looking at external conditions, being harmed by sticks and stones and weapons and so forth. It is on the basis of having a body that we become susceptible to being harmed by those external things, sticks, stones, weapons, and so forth. And had we not had this body, we would not have been harmed. Those things would not have been able to cause us suffering. So the basis for that, when we think about it, we can see that it is certainly 100% certain that the basis for the pain, the suffering that we experience is the body. Therefore, it is suitable to see or to consider the body as an enemy.
Pena ja never chingiji nujigi zuji tonayans dedanayans and di and songyab chigores di nujigi tonchini tachi to and torbaina kyong ragre modo nanzuleya ke ragmenza and songore song teres dedanayans sons pena chi jalia jali munzin chichi nanzu and 타직도 르 담아이나 찬주생이 냠는디 라르고요라스 어디난신기 랑기 류디기 안지 둥하마지기 땡치기여바 낀치기여바 자난신지 통내야 아니 류디 베디 야와 터치니 아니 탈 홍바이나 양간줄이야 경망부지라고서 류디 송고거레스
But still, as this section illustrates, although we see the body as an enemy, we still need to guard and protect the body. We still need to protect the body because if we only consider the body as an enemy and we do not protect the body, we will lose the basis for our practice. So there would be only a loss for us. There would be no benefit, no profit whatsoever. So when we look at the attitude that we develop with respect to the body, without considering or without seeing the body as an enemy, we will not have the basis for practicing the trainings of bodhisattvas. But on the other hand, if we do not guard the body, if we do not protect the body, we will be at loss in the sense that it's not that we can completely give up the body or annihilate the body, because it is still a basis for us for practice. So although we see the body as an enemy, although we see the body as a source of pain, a source of suffering, we still need to guard it.
송고의 견생 가르에서 나온디 팀딩 유린 소원이 텔레소는 침부치 세티 로 견생 테레스 배낭 안도 다지 땡델이야 아니 잡종 포미기 땡이야 아니 예체 배는 다지 개초는 거 동바 아니 사말로 아니 렌투야기 아니 땡 켜버전디 아니 난 단디 땡디 차고면서 딘디레 땡비 딘디 고발레 땡이 아니 루티 송교 체고에 대 빼마스바 개침을 차고 왔어.
Looking again at what Aryadeva says in his 400 stanzas, although one of course views the body as an enemy, one still protects it. If one lives for a long time with discipline meaning with ethics of, for example, an approacher of virtue, a layperson that has the vow, or an ordination vow, a novice or a fully ordained person, as Aryadeva says, great merit will arise from it. So it would be a great purpose if you protect the body and you live for a long life with ethical discipline.
최선의 슈바이나 배낭안도 세직 루지가야 아니 주요 컴포트도 야기 담나 캬버지 아니 지 상가도지 테비 람라야 슈야야 루덴든지 메나 아니 자원님이 용미스 같이 차고자 딘디 루덴 캬버지 토면서 아니 루디 송고야다 균zen 빼먹고 차고래서
We have the ability to attain the state of enlightenment in one lifetime based upon one body. It depends upon this body. We can receive special instructions. We can be led along the path of the secret mantra, the path of the Vajrayana. It depends upon that. We can attain the state of enlightenment in one lifetime based upon one body. It is impossible to do it without having this physical support that we have now, without having this physical body. So using reasons such as this, you can find many reasons why, though we view the body as an enemy, we still need to protect it.
어딘서다 타니스만오와 라 타직도 야가타사기 초지야 문도스 고 초직니 다타와 차고요리 초직니 메타메지 차고면서 아니 공무원들수 토니 타니스만오와 따고야디 루 토리아 공무원들수 초대기로지 차고도 왔어라.
Which means that we ought not to fall into two extremes. Our consideration of the body shouldn't be one-sided. If you only take one approach to the body, you will not have a balanced approach to it. So we need to combine the two, both considering the body as an enemy and still having to protect it.
딘즈당은 타니스만오와 제디 아니지 런두 조섬 관계 토니까 타니스만오와 세디 제고월 티치온디게 단등가 티치 텐스 생이만간도 될이야 상가촌도 소불칼이야 안간조 겐덴바다 좀어초 제 인칠론츠 딱 그런주 자원망부 이론딘디 페다 콘스 참을로데 아니 공지인스 오두 송송스 이나간조 총도 송디 니나론 총디 만주츠마다 겐덴바초 피기 샤kambu 로직치 아니 돌로이나 아니 지 천자드 캬수수 로지 간지 시신토와 로지 코나부터 베데 아니 코샤캬과 외식시 gonda 치고문데 되나야 간줄 베디 아니 남기페 김도 카르시 진페소 디자 간줄고는 될 슝인소 베나 좀어쪽이 아니 슝니 바이노 피 체종 벤도 나시 로지 어쩌당 문구 무마기다 람 조라마 이 시당하면 소름지 군주다 지 아니 가고 시소통이 디 나의 길에서 이 슈샤견단도 원이 엔도는 신기 로 겨요 안딘디 통디 아니 야부르와 삼성로지 그나가면서 나렌다데 저버도다 비공부 슈기 자샤를 세주 아니 춘중지 뭐도 아니 류칸 쇼즈마도 아 문도스 엔 드베 나노레야 캄비체디 엔 다가랑도 차고레스 디난시도 겐지 슈게디 베마스 야군도스라.
So we need to give this a consideration in light of the different activities that we take when we go somewhere, when we stay somewhere. Do not fall into an extreme behavior. It brings a point to mind. Geshe says a few years ago, I think it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago, we had a meeting here of the Australian Sangha Association, and we had not only monks and nuns from the Tibetan tradition that met here at Tumrezik Institute, but we also had guests from different Buddhist traditions that came from different parts of Australia. And during the meeting, we tried to maintain a more strict way of behaving that occurs with the Vinaya. So we did not have food afternoon, or we did not have dinner. So that was a good meeting, and kind of everything was done kind of really well. And Geshe said that one day as he was kind of looking at the people around, he just kind of made that mental note that although we sometimes are less strict about not having food after lunch, sometimes we do, still Geshe said that when he looked at the people that come from our tradition, it seems that kind of most of the people were quite thin. The robes were, looked good. Whereas those that avoided having food afternoon were quite chubby. So Geshe said that, no, it seems that you would think that those that have food, that stop eating food at lunchtime would be quite thin. Geshe just made a mental note that actually they look quite fat and chubby comparing to those that sometimes do have food after afternoon. So Geshe said that, it just made a mental note that it seems that when you look at the spirit of the Vinaya, how monastics should look and should look or appear, Geshe thought that we're actually not doing that bad. It seems that we live in the spirit of the Vinaya, which is also when you look at, for example, how it was held in the Nalanda tradition in India. For those of you that have visited the ruins of Nalanda monastery in India, when you look at the size of the rooms for monastics, you see that actually they totally accord with the Vinaya. There's just small rooms, not a lot of space to move. It seems that it's just exactly the right size for an ordained person, someone that came forward. So if you think of the Vinaya and you think of doing things in the spirit of the Vinaya, then you do not fall into those two extremes. And it seems that all in all, we're doing quite fine.
Drawings and Koran shusat the children shusape and tajibu.
So should
the Cambodia language. Any tajibu pe, any chick Tanganzutan of you Gombala Tedi Gamba to Shusala Drana, and in doing the Sulaya Mang Cheti Chape Sia Kandi Junujores. In the corner of Shusadi, in the Mayimba Pigi, Joe said that this Sulaya Chanda Mindra Lenchos and Bas Shindo Gambo Dramanda looks and Dramanda you, Dick Chocho. And Chal looks like Chadam Dina Pes of the Dramada you, Captos and Dramada Pit, Jimmy. Juban and Chisak on the chin. Taji shooting shoes. Dindi rang gomudas, and once in Dindi rang go, then Dilan Dindi rang gomu sungorda. Kanji and a Manzo Yoji going in change model be and Musul and Yape, and in Chichocho Sodoji, 고기요 말했어. 그 나도 맨날 징이 맨날 치고거든. 내내 제단디 아니 로종통 치고 그래서.
And also, a while ago, we visited another monastic. The person was an abbot of a certain monastery, and Geshe said that the residence was also quite opulent or quite big. It isn't a Tibetan tradition when you go into someone's residence, abbot or monk's residence, you often come across quite a lot of books, shelves of books and texts and so forth. The person that we visited had a massive array of different types of tea, right? So tea and teapots and crockery and so forth. Anyway, Geshe says that if you really adopt the spirit of monasticism, then you learn to get by on less and keep things simple. Actually, we don't need a lot of things, a lot of possessions. We can really keep things simple. So when we think of, for example, having a guest as a monastic, even when you have guests, if you still maintain a simple way of living, you can also host guests, and there would be no problem whatsoever. You don't need a really extensive presentation, really extensive array in order to have guests. You can also do it with a token of simplicity.
대다가 최초로지 차송스 공도스가 더 숨바 류 짐바통이 뒤당 거바 셰반니스 such a things.
Anyway, since that we are diverting from the topic, so let's go back to the text and pick up from the next verse, which is verse 87. It comes under the heading of explaining the time and need for practicing the giving of body in verse 87. It's the
logi.
Okay.
This shows something that 제단한주 류 송고레스 타니스만 송고레스 이내야 갑다 딜르드니 아니 류 짐바탄 거야 용구요레스 류 짐바탄 거야 덴코 갑다 딜르드니 담바 마도베기 지 갑둘라 마키비 깔야 류 짐바탄 마이나 아니 고발 드비치 차려야 가자 용야 닌가 요인자 아니 믹스해진 송고도스라.
So the point that Shantideva makes here in this section that focuses on explaining the time and need for practicing the giving of body, we spoke of avoiding the two extremes. So in a practice, we need to avoid the two extremes. However, there is a time and there is also a purpose in certain situations to give away our body. But then if you do it when the time is not right to do it, if there is no purpose in doing that, not only you will not really doing it in the purposeful way, it is prohibited to do it not at the right time and not for the right purpose. So this verse says, do not offer this body with impure thoughts of compassion. Offer it in any way to accomplish great purpose here and yonder. Wow, I've learned a new thing today. Yonder.
원들이다. 딘자 닌지기 삼바 마타비까야 아니 류드 땅와이나 되니 더 되면 소리지. 되면 자도레스. 개지 닌지기 삼바 아니 용 신치니 딘지 여바이나 다 류 땅 거서지려야 땅와이나 아니 so dela tum jubia o dindi yung ko dindi kala 인증이 땅고 그래서.
Looking at this verse again, it says, do not offer this body with impure thoughts of compassion, which means that when your compassion hasn't reached the point in which it is pure compassion, if you offer your body when your compassion is still impure, you don't fulfill the purpose. It is, you can say, it's not a meaningful way of offering the body. Whereas if you reach the point in which you have developed pure compassionate attitude, compassionate intention, and there is a purpose in offering your body, you need to do it.
잔주 셈베 당분니 룰라 소바 심전라 삼바 타바니 땅 메장스 류기 샤르 소바 홍이 까지기 인종 교당 제수 교버소 다비 셴지비 니지 삼마 마타파 조베 류드 땅 메자디 게팔 탑두스 도탐바타 뒤마임바 똥 뒤킬리 수송비 체로 장원 세노소 짐비 케탄 제시 님에도 촉 전부 조번 유이세 진리장 세럽드다 젠두양 된 전부 주비 유이세 땅스.
So Shannon is asking a question, but I think that the answer for that is found in the commentary. So let's look at the commentary before asking Geshe about it. So it says, Bodhisattvas offer from the beginning everything, including the body, to sentient beings from the depth of their mind. However, they should not give away the body with an action motivated by a thought of compassion that, despite cherishing others more than oneself, does so in an impure way. This generates despondency and regret after the austerity where one's flesh was required. This is extensively explained in the Compendium of Trainings, where the untimely offerings of one's body is described as an action of mara. One should offer it when one is really free from the obstacles to generosity, such as miserliness and so forth, and the offering becomes a faultless completion of great accumulation. Yeah, so as Geshe also said, the examples of impure compassion were given in the commentary to this verse.
이번 추기 도와라 숨 추시에도 물어와 님바비 류기 군저 당스 내기 삼비 캬버다바다 야첨벌로 녀바 멤버로 잡아 미차고 당부 추시에도 물어와 님바비 류기 군저는 마그 발로 추미시 민나 현중 고디다 도다 카오 천도다 고여버 탈라미스.
The next point comes under the section of gathering through Dhamma. There are 3 points in that section. Physical posture which are inappropriate for a listener to assume when the Dhamma is being explained. Then explaining the features of the vessel's thoughts, and one should not treat a person who esteems the extensive like one who feels an affinity towards the inferior. Let's begin with the first point, which is physical postures which are inappropriate for a listener to assume when the Dhamma is being explained in verse 88. So verse 88 reads, do not teach the Dhamma to the disrespectful, not to those who, while healthy, wear headbands, umbrellas, sticks, carry weapons, or cover their heads. One should not explain the Dhamma to those who do not have respect for the Dhamma and the teacher, or to those whose behavior is unsuitable, such as wearing headbands, carrying umbrellas, sticks, weapons, or covering their heads with cloth and so forth. Dila chiwashtu.
Yeah.
Dila ninja tapegi tsedi shawaina pena sa tambula lewaina sa tambungula den lewaina den lechik tse shaishtu.
Ninji taksedi ninji chuma mahimbaji yobaino digiyasares.
So Alan was asking, where on the path do we have pure compassion? Is it the first ground and above? Well, Geshe reckons that you can posit pure compassion when you develop uncontrived
Chuma mahimba. Ninji.
When you develop uncontrived compassion.
Kaza ninji chuma mahimba yobaino pi pena pava tomegi ani jizun chamgudun da kimoma musibitse ani pi kaso da chik semlaya tezomeba pi nantuwa nanshinchi yunguyasares. Dindiji yobaino ani din nangwi titangwi nyenenliya ani gyobaki yadang ani ninji nyamyang gyula sobadi yunguyasamares ra.
Like, for example, when you look at the life story of Asanga and Maitreya, when he was practicing austerity, when he was practicing over a long time in order to come to see Maitreya face to face, there was this occasion in the life story where he met a dog that was infested by maggots, and having compassion both for the dog and the maggots, he didn't want to pull out the maggots with his hand so that they might be killed. So he tried to do it with his tongue, which was an indication of the great compassion that he had. So when your compassion reached the point in which it is faultless, it is compassion that will not be preceded by regret and so forth. Geshe reckons that this is the mark of pure compassion. You know the Omala Jobara, Omala Joba Kabdila, which is so le sema tebanan shin jimbadilam malena le tanchogi males then chikshay in the satambola then the
ninji tagna lutan chogi khabadu sunguyo marata ndela ninji tagbaji gores lutan balaya ninji mata bekala lutan rongu mares ninji tagni lutan chogores laundi ninji tagna lutan chogi khabma keje shego marada ninji tagmata keje ditewara ninji tagmata sedi chidan jong sega shumbel de ninji tagmata sedi ninji chimo mai ba ki ma ke shas ona ninji chimo mai ba ki chana ona lu tang chog kyagres na ya dishja chi chora dara.
So then Top Geshe that it seems that in Chandrakirti's supplement to the Middle Way, when he explains the perfection of giving in the first chapter, on the first ground, it makes a reference to when it is permissible to give away the body. And as far as I remember, I told Geshe that it is when you have the attitude that giving away the body would be like giving away a piece of vegetable. This is when you're permitted to do it. So Geshe says that you can make a few distinctions. First of all, it is not suitable to give away your body when your compassion is still impure. Now, once you have pure compassion, it doesn't mean that necessarily you need to give away your body. Even if you have pure compassion, it doesn't mean to say that in all situations you can give away your body.
Lulishani Ruji Yurindu, Sanri, Cheba Gurkandi, Zobat Chebachela, Haber Gurslara, or he come to the rest.
So actually the discussion of when it is permitted and not permitted to give away one's body is explained in relation to the perfection of patience. And they said that even if you have to cut pieces of your body, bit by bit, small pieces by small pieces, over a long time, and your mind does not get disturbed throughout the process where you're doing it kind of over a long time, small pieces by small pieces, at that point, it is permitted to give away your body.
Tadiri, any church Morui, Penatachi, Kunjuk Chani, Makubi, number Yobatelia, church Morui Gunzen Kare said, Tichigo was a result, church Morui Gunzen cousin, church Hendo Yomaris, Telia church and Hendo Yomaris, cousin, church couldn't be any same good. Tayag Pendu, church training yours. Makupalaya, Kuba Mingilia, church Yavana, Tandadun Duya Yomaris, these are any church. Then never charge Matovi, any given Drugumenza, church Rumaris.
Looking at the outline again, says that it begins with physical postures which are inappropriate for listener to assume when the Dhamma is being explained. So rather than understanding that as physical postures, you can also understand that as the type of behavior which is inappropriate for a listener to have when the Dhamma is being explained. So when we think of the type of behavior that is inappropriate, as it says here in the verse, do not teach the Dhamma to the disrespectful. So if someone behave in a way that is disrespectful, or they have a sense of disregard to the Dhamma, and also as it says, not to those who while healthy wear headbands, umbrellas, and so forth, which means that when altogether a certain person doesn't have an appreciation of the Dhamma shouldn't be taught to them, in a sense that the Dhamma should be taught to those that have the wish to listen. Now, if someone has a sense of disrespect to the teachings, it is likely that the person is not having the wish to listen to the Dhamma, so the Dhamma should not be taught to them.
Make is some Kabartavanis, Menla Sabdan Gachetan, Keba Meba, Memen. Men the Chogi Channel, Sumoku Kunjes.
Then it continues in verse 89 that comes out of the heading of examining the features of the vessel's thoughts. Let's look at that. It says, to those holding the lesser to be great and profound, to women without their spouse, hold equal respect for the lesser and supreme Dhamma and practice it well.
The Dane might be some member last, Sabbath Gachi, Chibi Shepatons, Sabbath Gachi, Chu, and Lola Mashung in Jelaya, and Sabbath Gachi, Chu Shevaina, then Chenta Tanta Loyagi, Ninga Matobi, Gobayomaris.
So it begins with saying, to those holding the lesser to be great and profound. Let's look at another translation of this verse, might be a better translation. Yeah, that's a better translation, just a second. So it says, the vast and profound should not be taught to lesser beings, in a sense that if you teach topics that are vast and profound to those who cannot get the mind around it, those that cannot really fit something that is so vast and profound in the mind, you'll not be helping them. So we should give teachings in accordance with the level of the student, rather than teaching them things that are not suited for their level.
Keba member Pume Chibulayan Menos. That the Dewey Coach Sungioris, Pena Timdro Sage, Timdro Mevalia, Pena Yushan and Romochoyata, and use in Chibulaya, Demochoya, or the Sungioris, the Dicaresana, Pigi, Tanji Kondo, Ninji Mata Vikalaya, Lu Jimbatam Mucho Nanshingi, any Rangi Tsultrim Songi, Pigi, any Dintu Mengi Yimbaina, and those Drawina, and Soso Ranilaya, Nyanga Yunguyanza, and Chushi Rungomaris, the Chushi Chibumari, Pena, Yushin Chibun Rumucho Soba, and Ne Pigi, and Bachibulaya to Demochoyati, and do you go Maris?
Now looking at the next line that says, not to a woman unaccompanied by men. Now, this section should be understood from the viewpoint of the Vinaya that was taught in the context of monastics. So there are certain rules that were stipulated for monastics, like, for example, you shouldn't travel to another place unaccompanied. Or if you're a monastic, do not create those situations when you find yourself, for example, alone in one room with a woman. Now, so those rules were stipulated from monastic. So in that sense, if your compassion is not pure yet, and you behave in a way that could violate the ethical discipline of the monastic, that's going to be of no purpose. So then, in terms of giving teachings to others, then if you have, for example, if you find yourself as a monastic, as a monk, for example, together in one closed room with a woman and kind of you're giving her teaching, from the point of view of the Vinaya, this is not really appropriate. You should have a few people in the room rather than one unaccompanied woman in the room. And this is the way that you should behave as a monk, right? So this is the way that we understand it from the viewpoint of the Vinaya.
Yeah.
Did you have a question here?
It was actually back verse 88. So all of these, of course we have gone for protocols and so forth, but all of these, not wearing headbands, umbrellas, sticks, carrying weapons. So presumably this is only when it's disrespectful or with that attitude, not at other times when it may be appropriate to be carrying such things. Like, for example, if you're outside, it's raining, you've got an umbrella.
Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is that kind of, since that you could have umbrellas or other things at the appropriate time, which in the context it's not disrespectful. Yeah?
Yeah, that the point here is about being disrespectful, not about specifically, literally, not literally.
So that's in relation to verse 88. So dila makobala chumishe mini shindu guchi tang du tang korwa tsunto tang sashwa. Sesan peshe dila makso de makube kavla chu sherungi maresen sigrwa. Pena sacha de te wainarwa. Kesi chilo la de waina nimas shoshi tsawo kapsulayan yaman chaba shukchembo dende tang kapsulayan dende nido yama chado dende pechita waina digra yamana sosogi lega mixegi chi yona pena de tsunja den dawachi tago yona makuba maimbe kabla dende chush sherungero
Jos, di zhenang sigos di makubala chemishe minna shendung goti tanslang di pigi cholam gi khabar minna selga cholam gi khabar cholam pigi la tindichi drogo kabla ya ko goba yubi kabla ya she chogores ro.
Yeah, I guess I agrees with you, Turkey. So it's when it says in this verse, the Dharma should not be explained to those who lack respect, right? So it shouldn't be taught to those who are disrespectful. Then to those who wrap cloth around their heads, though they are not ill, those holding umbrella sticks or weapons to those with covered heads. So actually there could be a purpose. It could be a reason that someone would have an umbrella, a stick, and so forth. And in a certain context, when it is not disrespectful, it is all right to give them Dharma teachings.
제조 고발다 고발다 저 사망 고발다 고비 왕기 송비어라스 아니 근데 디오디 베나 페메치고 아니 케버치고 또 대상배나 경험말로 소와 안 딘디게다 아니 추싱이 여러스 디 조조디 가샤 도문도 다 소소소기 따야지 여러스 라 안짜위기 되베나노야 아니 나두 니치세치 아니 냠바존니 로나주 어딘디치 런치니 간지 아니 소소소래야 딩츠 여바친바이나 아니 가샤디 케기어레스 페나 딩츠 메비카라 딩츠 메바타 아니 비긴 도하니 시비기 케치 만상을까야 아니 조 안타 경파이난다 마이난다
So then here, looking at the next verse, 89, with the line that says, no to a woman unaccompanied by men. Again, Geshe said that it needs to be looked at from the viewpoint of the Vinaya that is taught for monastics. So it applies to both fully ordained monks or fully ordained nuns, because we also have occasions or situations where teachings are given by fully ordained nuns. So for them, it would apply in a similar way. Do not find yourself in a situation where you're alone with a person from the opposite sex giving teaching to them. So this is something that is in line with the Vinaya tradition. So then, when you look at that in a more in-depth way, there's certain rules that were taught for monastics. It says that, for example, when it is still earlier on in your time as a monastic, when you haven't developed yet certainty with respect to some features of being a monastic, if 5 or 10 years haven't gone by, so there's a number of years that you need to have been ordained as either as fully ordained monk or fully ordained nun, in which is said that after that time you have gained experience and confidence in remaining as a monk or a nun. So those rules might not apply to you in such a strict way. So there are certain situations where those prohibitions are being lifted. But until you get to that point, from the viewpoint of this tradition, it says that you should avoid cases in which, for example, you find yourself alone in one room with a person from the opposite sex, as a fully ordained monk or as a fully ordained nun.
대바 챔비스 저당은 니마 난주 게츠 랍샤치 셰르와스 카진 대바지에 고지 찌기 게츠 랍샤치 조나세치 랍소스 난주 마음발은 대바야나 나 디엔치 양제치 셰기 대바유스.
So we did have some instructions given before about the ethics of monastics in line with the Vinaya. And not long ago, there was another request that was made to Geshe that maybe we can do it again. So if there's still interest and we can find the time to do it, Geshe is willing to speak about the Vinaya.
My passion. Teva chechongi chetaw membatan chogi cheno sangyendang rigmerigdan sangiwe tabsun yumin so chini chobon songbes kunlan sombar kube kundu chechi nyamsu langbar chawo.
So let's look at a commentary through this verse. It says, One does not teach the profound and extensive Dhamma to those who are not a vessel due to a lesser motivation, and also not to women alone without their spouse or unaccompanied, let's say. It is taught that if one discriminates between the superior Mahayana and the lesser Hinayana on the basis of being wholesome or bad, suitable or unsuitable, becoming the method for enlightenment or not, and so forth, it is abandoning the Dhamma. One should therefore have equal respect for all paths and practice them all.
Sumba Jachembola Meba, Membala Java Michalanis, Penata Jachembo, Chanju Simbi Jabala Yoding, Ninjit and Chanjuki, Semgi Yamlin, Meba Chimbu Yoding, and Chikewle Tambo Jimbaina, that Dindilaya be that Nyantugi, and Chik, but that Chi Kunju to shoot, Chishin to Yenza, that be any Temingi Yamlin Dita. Yabuimba and Ditolaba Tia Soba Dindi and Jana Rungumaris or Disungu Saris.
Now, the next point is one should not treat a person who esteems the extensive like one who feels an affinity towards the inferior. So let's say that someone has a high esteem to the teachings of the Mahayana, the development of compassion, loving kindness, the mind of enlightenment, and so forth. Whereas to another person, the teachings on how to become serene and pacified and really strict in one conduct, like you find in the Hinayana, if you give teachings which are not appropriate to that to those different individuals, it is a fault, right? So to those who are not inclined on the development of compassion, loving kindness, and so forth, you shouldn't teach them those things. To those who are not inclined on developing a strict behavior, but are inclined on developing loving kindness and so forth, you should give them appropriate teachings.
Gachin Chugi Nugiva, Membichula Jamicha, Joba Yonsu Tormicha, Dodanangi Temechas.
So then verse 90 says, I should not connect the Dhamma of a lesser vehicle to the one who is a vessel for the vast Dhamma. I should not forsake the conduct, nor deceive by means of sutras or mantras.
The Gachimbu Chugi Nudukiva, Tabachimbu Richi, Nyandugi Lamni, Chivatavu, Membichula Javamechatis, Tonju Chero, Dombi Sudum Joba, Yonsu Tora Mechadi, Tintu de Ronsendo, Doda Nga Lavatam, Tavan Jurushi, Doda Ngagi, Gentable, Mechawos.
The commentary to verse 90 says, do not lead someone with Mahayana lineage that is suitable vessel for the extensive Dhamma to things like the here path. It is thought that this becomes a downfall. Do also not cause someone that is a vessel for the morality of restraint to give up their practice of morality through misleading them with sutra and mantra, saying that they will come pure merely by reading sutras and mantras. Do not mislead with sutra and mantra.
Sumba Sunjingi Sam Jesu Sonshi, Nebe Makubi, Joba La, Habalani, Geba Sheba Tantendo, Tambo Geba Sheba Sum, Luke Jolum, Neba the Chishi, Jam Madeba Pamatan, Lamla Soba, Tembi Se, Chedar Chavatan, Nyavi Kunji, Chedar Chavo. Tambo Luke Kunji, Neba the Chishi, Jam Madeba Paman, Tumundu, Denu Sombi, Kunjana, Chanju Simbi Rabdu Chongikan. Nang Kamato Song Gola, Shema Deva Kiva, Kimbi Sembekan, Song Gobes. Soshin Tani, Chimata, Tovatani, Kabacha. Jilla Soba, Lonjubi, Chudan Tana, Torame. Kakawadan, Dachetan, Kadan, Zamicha. Samichas. Katu Soshintan, Chimatovatan, Salasoba, Kapachashi, Shanjidan, Bulasoba, Tumu, the Lonjubi, Chutan, Tanato, Talasobi, Memory, 도 무자고 시기 레벨 카강원 짜짜로 소비 다침부 제버다 레벨 카단 사우 무자고
So we've looked at point B, which is gathering through Dharma. So we've altogether finished looking at conduct that gathers others without summing or polluting oneself with wrongdoing. Let's look at the third point in the way to train in ethics of working for the benefit of sentient beings, which is looking after the minds of sentient beings and training in the conduct that is unsullied by wrongdoings, consisting of 2 points, the extensive explanation and the synopsis. Beginning with the extensive explanation, there are 3 points: abandoning the faulty physical conduct and lack of faith in others, covering 3 verses. Then the way to act when the path and so forth are being sought, and the way to lie down. Let's begin with abandoning the faulty physical conduct and lack of faith in others, beginning with the commentary. So, before we read through this verse, we'll begin with the commentary. It says, "But then Bodhisattvas and lay Bodhisattvas alike must follow the behavior that is explained in the general basket of teachings on morality, unless there is an exemption that permits them otherwise. It will cause a loss of faith in the minds of others if they do not do this." So to that, the next verse says, "If one leaves behind tooth, woods, and saliva, then they should be covered. To urinate and the like on water and ground used by all is inferior." The next 2 lines say, "Do not eat with full mouth, noisily, or with an open mouth." So to continue with the reading of the commentary, it says, "If one leaves behind the wood used to clean the teeth and leaves one's saliva on the ground, then this should be covered up with earth and the like. One should also not pollute commonly used water or land with feces, urine, and mucus, as this is frowned upon by the gods and others."
Thank you.
Yeah. No more camping. Yeah. So let's dedicate. Nyododa lama sangi dugene do tika malupa de salago pansho rinpoche make pano figurti kriyapanyam pame panyam gone gone pewa kawe shinkanzu pendan dewa malu tuwe chene siwan tenzin ganson shape sinti padu
Jamgun Jawe Zinju Pewe Guzo Topos Chosun Kowe Montu Tasu Kundu Shaten Sho Sanina Nishin Jaurung Sonchu Dwa Sapa Sandan Deli Sonchu Ti Yentu Mara Sengre
Sapemba.
Pembala
Sapasan yentu.
Pasan Pemba Yentu Mars
Sapasan yentu gres, sanimapen yentu gres,
Ani Peshi Ma Yungumes
sapasan.
Big desert that then near Devachi Yesra.
Oh, okay. So His Holiness is going to give teachings in the next 3 days. Starting from tomorrow, right? So is it 1:30 Australia time? Sorry?
Yes.
Yeah, 1:30 Australia time. So some of us are going to watch some of the sessions here at the Gompa. So since we still have the prayer sessions happening on Saturday, we're not able to do it at the Gompa.
I'm not 100% sure.
All right.
I think it's an issue with it's the internet.
Yeah, so it's an issue with the internet connection, but it doesn't really concern the people at home. So Geshe said just for the people here. So apparently currently, from what we know now, we can watch it together here at the Gompa on Friday and Sunday. So Geshe kind of thinks that he would like to just listen to the teachings or get the teachings in one place, in one seat. So it's likely that he's not going to join us here at the Gompa. He's probably going to do it at home.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You can go.
So Monday, when we're out on Monday.
Sadawala dinleyici linga kana böyle var. Dua tola dinleyici şey di kana dinleyici Sadawala dinleyici şöyle.
Okay. And yeah. Sadhava counted.
So Wednesday.
They shouldn't be.
Yeah. So is it
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's okay.
so is it Gretchen's birthday or? Okay.
Just, I thought it was. Oh, better check.
So is it like is it nearby?
Oh, it's the botanic garden. Yes, I thought.
Yeah, I guess it's not sure that it's I think I've been there like probably 15 years ago. Yeah, I've been there like 15 years ago.